sorry that I haven't been as regularly posting as I'd like to be. Not as consistent as I started. But I am doing my best, and will keep coming back to you when I can. And I want to give a huge kudos to all these YouTube creators who are so consistent and regular and continuous and frequent with their posting, because it's hard being a creator with a full-time job. And I just have such appreciation and admiration for the creators on the platform that are so good at just remaining regular and have a cadence that they stick to, and just kudos to you guys. I wanted to come on and talk to you today to do a little story, give you a little ASMR story, an inspiring story, perhaps something that I'm feeling really grateful for, and a reminder of why I'm such a firm believer in fate, in the notion that everything happens for a reason in our lives, even when you can't see the reason up front, or maybe it takes a bit to understand why things in life play out the way they do, why sometimes what seems like a disappointment actually turns into a blessing, which is kind of what happened in my case. And I just feel so fortunate to have the kind of hindsight to look back on an unfortunate situation and recognize why it happened the way that it did. And I thought maybe it would be inspiring to some of you who are watching, who are listening, because we live in a world right now where it's so easy to focus on the negative, and media tends to harp on negativity, because people get sucked into kind of a negative spiral, and it's just, I feel like positives aren't celebrated as much, and it brings people down. It makes people sad. And as a human species, I want to remind ourselves that we have the opportunity to bring light into the world, just with the way that we think and our mental positioning and your mindset. And so for me, in my life, I always try my hardest to understand why things happen the way they do, why unfortunate events happen, and the fortunate moments that come out of them. I try to spin things as glass half full, because I think there's a learning lesson for every misfortune in life, for every pitfall or hard time. I think the things that you learn and grow out of those lessons, out of those moments, are so valuable, and I try to live my life always looking for the positivity. I am an eternal optimist by all accounts. I choose optimism. They say that happiness is a choice. I think optimism is also a choice. I choose to try to find what I'm grateful for in every negative situation. So, all to say, something has happened recently in the last few months of my life, and I was having trouble understanding and rationalizing it, but I see a silver lining now, and I thought it would be maybe inspiring or help with your understanding of maybe an unfortunate situation that's happening in your life, and trying to find the positive out of it. So in my case, as some of you may know, because I think I've mentioned it in a previous YouTube video on my channel, my husband and I are trying to get pregnant, which is terrifying. It is terrifying, and it is an experience unlike anything that I've ever been through. You can't really prepare yourself for the time in your life when you're ready to start a family, because so much of it is out of your control. It's out of my control. I don't dictate how my body works. I was thinking it would be easy for us. We are two healthy people. Full transparency, my husband and I, actually before we got engaged, had an abortion, got pregnant, and I had an abortion because I was grateful enough, I was lucky enough, fortunate enough to live in a state at the time that I had the choice to make for myself. I had the opportunity to decide the fate of my body, and we just weren't engaged yet and weren't ready to have a child. It was a very hard decision to make, but we made the decision to terminate the pregnancy legally, and with the help of a doctor, thank God. All to say, I thought from that experience, where by all accounts I shouldn't have gotten pregnant, maybe I'll tell you that story in a separate video, it made me believe that I would have no problem getting pregnant and it would happen quickly, because it happened when it shouldn't have, and so I figured when I wanted it to and when I was trying for it, it would be easy. Well, as my grandmother always said, man plans and God laughs, and what I thought would be a quick process was not. My husband and I, in earnest, started trying to get pregnant about, I guess, 2 months ago now, which is still very early. I am aware of that. I'm talking as if I've been trying for so long. I have not. But I will say that, I stopped taking birth control. I was on an IUD. I removed my IUD. And with the IUD specifically, there's no kind of recovery time. You take it out and you're fertile. So says my doctor. So I was expecting to get it out. And then, the next cycle during my fertile window, we would give it a college effort. And I really believed that I may get pregnant on my first attempt, or first month. So did everything right, did the deed. And when it came time to take a pregnancy test at the end of my cycle, I was getting negative pregnancy tests, and it was so disheartening. Any woman that has tried to get pregnant and sees a negative result, especially for the first time, it's disheartening. It's really frustrating. As a woman, we are born to procreate. I mean, we're born to do a whole lot of things, but one of those things is to continue the legacy of humanity. And when you face a hurdle in that kind of primal mission of ours, it feels shitty. So we're getting negative results. Took maybe 5 tests over the span of, a week, and they were all negative, and it was so sad and so disheartening, and just really such a bummer to see those results. And then I got my period, and it was okay. Month 1, I think it's quite rare that you get pregnant the first month that you ever try, so we move forward. And the first month I didn't use any fertility tracking apps. I just kind of wanted to try naturally, so we tried whatever. Month 2 rolls around, and I attempted to be more kind of diligent about the process and the days that I expected to be fertile. And the first month my husband had been traveling. He was traveling to London, and so part of me was thinking, well, maybe it was that week that he was in London when I was at my peak, and so this month he's not traveling, I'm not traveling, we have a whole month to go for it. And so we tried, and I rolled around when it was time that the window of you can start to take a pregnancy test now. It might not be accurate because there might not have been enough time that has passed. I tried to take a pregnancy test pretty early in my cycle, all things considered, and it was negative. And I tried not to get too upset about it because it was early. was, it was like a week-long process. This was kind of happening in tandem with, the start of the time where I could take pregnancy tests, and had a few interviews, and this job process actually happened quite quickly, and within a week of interviewing and speaking to folks and putting myself for the job, I learned that I got the job, which is so exciting. I'm so over the moon about starting this new position. It's exactly what I want to be doing. It's just the perfect thing for me, and I couldn't be happier. I just am thrilled. But then in my mind, I'm thinking, well, fuck, if I'm pregnant starting this new job, then in a matter of months, I'm gonna have to tell them. And I don't know that that's a good precedent to start a new job with. And the timing of it was so that it would have been kind of blurry to delineate, like, if my colleagues had really thought about it, they would have recognized that I maybe knew that I was pregnant before I got the job, even though I didn't, because I was getting negative tests. But it just was very simultaneous, and it just would have been kind of an unfortunate experience to have to kind of not tell them early in my accepting this job, and then wait maybe too long. I don't know. I was just, then I kind of got nervous. Oh God, I kind of hope I'm not pregnant, even though we've been trying, and we feel like it's the time. Now would be a terrible time to find out that I am. So I'm not pregnant. I have my period, and I got this job, and I'm so fucking relieved that it didn't happen this month, and it didn't happen last month, because if it happened last month, I would have felt even more guilty accepting this new job. And if it happened this month, the timing would have just been so close that maybe it would have raised some eyebrows. And now that I'm not pregnant, I can kind of start this job, go in, feel healthy, get my bearings, and then not feel as guilty in a couple of months. If we do get pregnant, I'll have had the runway to kind of, build my base in this new role and go from there. So, thinking about it, it's just so crazy, because these are two pretty significant life events, and you can't time your life. Life happens in such unexpected moments, things happen so spur of the moment, and the way that this all kind of played out just makes me feel so fortunate and so grateful that the few first months of trying weren't successful, because there would have been a lot of guilt of doing these two pretty major things simultaneously, and I'm just so relieved that I can start this new job, give it my all without having to deal with an early pregnancy. And it just goes to show that we have no say or control over over how life unfolds. We really don't. I mean, we can influence and strategize and prepare ourselves for everything and every opportunity and hope for the best, but we don't run the show. I don't believe we run the show. I think there's something, fate, destiny runs the show, is my firm belief, and I am just so appreciative that this timeline worked out the way that it did, and that fate really took hold of my situation and led it, and I didn't know at first that this was going to happen. And I'm just so happy that it did, and I just hope that hearing this story, listening to this, makes you realize, or helps you understand that we don't have any control ultimately, but we just have to recognize and understand that fate is a powerful thing. Things do happen for a reason. There is a silver lining to just so grateful and appreciative of this current situation that I'm in, and I hope you can find rationale to be appreciative of the situations that you find yourselves in that sometimes don't seem so exciting at first, but are all really meant to be in the end. So that's just a little positivity, a little optimism from me to you. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope everything in your life happens the way that it should, the way that it's meant to, even if sometimes you don't understand why at first, because fate is a powerful thing, and you just have to have a little faith. And with that, I bid you farewell, peace and love, be well, be positive, and just recognize that it'll all